Hello, Ignite attendees. Welcome to How to Transition Into and Flourish in a Career in Technology. I am here with our esteemed panel of Scott, Ramya, and Akosua, who are going to highlight their journey into technology and give you some real practical advice on what you can do to get into the field as well as flourish and have a successful career. So I'm going to start with Scott. Can you tell me how did you find your way into the technical field, and can you give us an idea of what you do in a day in your life?
Thank you. When I was 12, I was playing with an Apple II at school. This is a time when people didn't have a computer per person; they had a computer per school. And then eventually that became a computer per classroom, but there was only one computer in the entire school. But I had a knack for it, and my fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Marion Hill, noticed that I had a knack, and she allowed me to steal the computer on Friday nights. My dad would back the car up against the school. We would sneak the computer out, and as long as I had the computer back by Sunday night, they wouldn't tell the principal that I had the computer at my house. And we like to joke that I was voted most likely to be convicted of a white-collar crime because I was making fake IDs and all kinds of stuff I shouldn't have been doing. But that kept my nose clean and my head on straight. And if Mrs. Hill hadn't said, "I think this kid has something," I would be doing something entirely different. So I had early sponsorship, which I think is crucial for a successful career in tech. Now I've been coding for about 30 years. And I work here at Microsoft managing the .NET community and the Visual Studio community.
All right. So our next guest, Ramya, can you give us an overview of how you found your way into technology and what's a day in your life like?
All right. So for me, a story similar to Scott's, where I started pretty early, and we did also have one computer in the school lab that we were allowed to use. And for me, I've had an even earlier introduction to engineering in general, with both my parents being engineers, working for the defense for Indian government. And so we are born in an engineering family. My sister is an engineer before me. And so for me, there were really, so two aspects. One is passion for being able to solve problems computationally much faster than we ever could on pen and paper. So that really fascinated me as a child, and my parents being engineers really motivated us to start early getting extra classes because the school had literally one computer for all of us to share. So that really got me started early to start with small programs, even writing, small algorithms, building like games through computers and getting me excited there. But I'll also be honest and admit, in India, to survive, you had two options. You're either a doctor or an engineer. So my parents gave me all of two choices. And, even among engineering, there were two choices. You pick electrical or you pick computer science. And I chose computer science. So I would be pretentious if I didn't say that I didn't have much of a choice, but I cannot be more thankful to my parents for creating a passion so early on in my life. And I'm, when I look back, I've had a very fulfilling career so far, and I feel like I've had such a broad impact through my work at Microsoft. So a huge kudos to my parents. That's me. Akosua, I'll pass it on to you.
Yeah, so my introduction into tech was pretty much, I didn't study any technology field. I was born and raised in Botswana. I learned to type and learned math skills. The math skills was using games on a Windows computer. So I played like the Finding Nemo math game or Reader Rabbit. And that like taught me, math is fun. Like computer skills using and math skills. And then even learning to type on Microsoft Word, I wouldn't even have been in the United States had I not known how to like write my college essay using Microsoft Word, right? But then when I did venture and go to the United States, I went to school at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and studied business. So I did accounting and human capital management and leadership. And to get a job as an international student was probably one of the most challenging and frustrating, red taped things ever. It makes you feel like this tiny when a company continuously rejects you, but because of the fact that you're foreign is a whole other ball game. The alien, as they call us. And then, yeah, every company said no, but then there it was again. Microsoft was the only company that gave me a chance, and they, gave me an internship as a sales operations program manager. So my dive into a tech company was as a sales operations PM, working on tools and processes for the Microsoft United States business. And then a few months ago, I actually ventured into this new role as a global experiential marketing lead, working on our global events. And again, from sales ops to marketing. And so I'm on the businessy side of tech, but I really enjoy, these events would not be possible without my team. And I also want anyone watching to know that, being in tech is not a monolith. These events are created using high tech tools as well, but we're marketers, right? And we're in marketing and the teams are in production. And so it's really cool. You can be in business, you can be in marketing, you can be in accounting and still work at a tech company and still make impact using technology, but for other people as well. And so just don't look at technology as being a monolith. And I'm super grateful that I got this start into a tech company. And I'll pass it back to Anthony.
All right. Thank you for your introductions. And I actually forgot to introduce myself. That's wild. So for everyone in the audience, my name is
And switch yourself back live, sir.
I am still live.
There we go.
There we go. For everyone in the audience, my name is Anthony Kerr. I am in the Worldwide Learning Organization as the go-to-market lead for skills for employability. So what my role entails is finding people and reaching them and helping to deliver the technical skills they need to succeed and obtain careers in technology. So for our first question, in this time, and the reason we're doing this event virtual is because of the pandemic, and a lot of people's career has been impacted by the pandemic and the COVID scenario. So Ramya, what advice would you give someone who is transitioning into a completely new field in this time?
Thank you, Anthony. So I'll start off with saying one, while the pandemic clearly has had a significant impact on all of our lives, all businesses, enterprises, schools, organizations, the one thing that is actually in our favor is being in tech. It is quite a bit possible to be successful in our roles being remote. It is at these times that we have to be thankful for the jobs that we do, and that it enables us to be safe, to keep us, our dear ones, our families safe, being remote. And so huge kudos to those who are in essential work, having to be present physically. So taking advantage of this fact, of this chance that we have, I think is a huge opportunity in tech. I will especially say that, thinking of it as a way to open up opportunity, and there have been a lot of questions around how to transition, and this is what the conversation is about. I actually see this as a plus, given all the challenges the pandemic brings. This is actually a huge opportunity for us and opens a window for those who are already in tech or those who are considering transitioning to tech.
Absolutely. And Akosua, what advice would you give to someone who just graduated from college during a pandemic? What advice would you give to them to find their job in technology?
Yeah, I think one of the things for me that is really important is that I wish somebody told me not to just look at my degree and say, okay, I'm going to be narrow-minded and I'm going to say I studied accounting, so I can only go and work in the accounting field. You have to kind of mind blow yourself and understand that just because you study one subject doesn't mean you're bound to that subject. So it allows you to, I would say it gives impetus to the skills and the value that you already have, but it's not all you have to offer. So for example, I studied accounting and human capital management and leadership, but now I work in marketing, right? And so if I just told myself, oh, which I did for a couple of years, I told myself, like the first 2 years of university, I said like, oh, I only studied accounting, so I have to go work at the Big Four. No, you don't. Like, we are multifaceted as human beings, whether you know it or not. So tap into those other areas. And what ways that you can do this is I utilize LinkedIn a lot, and people are always watching. So for example, if you put out like a video resume and you're looking for a job, you can put out a video resume, keep it 1 minute, 1:50, and talk through some of the skills that you have. It's a newer way. People don't really utilize video resumes. And so that will make you, I don't know, it'll make you stand out a little bit more rather than just like applying on the system and submitting just a plain resume. Somebody else actually sent me a video resume that was about 1:23, and I literally posted it everywhere for her. It was just super fun. But another thing that you can do, again, by utilizing LinkedIn, is utilize LinkedIn stories. Because it's so new, people are tapping through them. You want to make sure that people tap on you. And so those are some of the things that I encourage people to do. Those are things that I've been encouraging other job seekers to do. Also, search hiring on LinkedIn in the search bar. It's very underutilized. People don't do that. If you search hiring and if you click posts and filter, you'll see all the jobs that people are hiring for, as opposed to just if you look on LinkedIn for just plain jobs. But I do want to encourage you to pivot yourself. There are also certifications that you can take on LinkedIn that are super fun, but Microsoft and LinkedIn and GitHub have partnered to make them free or cheaper. So just try and do those. And that's like just a little bit of tips and nuggets that I will leave for you all.
All right, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So Scott, technology is a very fast-moving space. So how does someone kind of pick a way to stay on top of what's happening, what's hot, and to find relevant skills that translate to getting a job in some fast-moving spaces?
That's a great question. I feel like we spend a lot of time saying we should teach people how to code, and I think we need to spend as much time or more teaching people how to think, because systems thinking will never go out of style. You can pick a language like the languages that I learned in the 90s. Some of those languages are dead and I don't use them anymore. In fact, most of the skills that I learned in college are all gone now because technology has moved so fast. So instead, you want to think about your experience learning how to learn. It's not about keywords and how to type in Visual Studio Code. It's about how systems are built, and that's never going to go out of style. How computers work, memory, RAM, CPU, algorithms are fundamental things. So I think as we try to build our skills, we need to build them from the base of the pyramid. One of the great examples that I like to do when I'm teaching young people how to code, and I recently taught a group of a bunch of 14-year-old girls how to code, and I started by saying, I want to make some toast, but the toaster won't turn on. What should I do? And they all stared at me very awkwardly, and they were like, I thought we were going to learn how to code. And then one of them yelled out, does the toaster have power? And another person yelled out, well, maybe the neighbors don't have power, and that's why you can't have toast. That's a systems thinker. That's debugging. And those kinds of skills fundamentally don't go out of style. So I think people need to think about how systems work when they get into tech. Absolutely.
Systems thinking is incredibly important. And we also need soft skills when we think about entering a new space and getting a job in the tech industry. Ramya, what soft skills are most important, especially as a hiring manager? What are you looking for in these candidates?
That's a great question, Anthony. I would add one of the most important things that I look for, and I can say this thematically on hiring managers in large software companies, is proactivity. Ability to take on things before being told to do so. And I really believe in the saying which says, it is better to ask for forgiveness rather than for permission. In this space, Scott talked about it, having that systems thinking needs you to push the boundaries a bit and stop waiting for somebody to tell you to do something. It's okay to try. It's okay to fail. What matters is what you're taking from that failure and what you're learning for yourself and the broader team, the product. So I would say, if I had to say one punchline that I would just like to make a statement, is proactivity, the willingness to take on and try things even if it leads to failure.
Perfect. And question from the chat that I'm going to ask Kosua. Any suggestions for raising one's visibility, especially if you're a bit shy or introverted? How do you deal with presentations, collaboration, etc.?
Yeah, I think this is a good one. I'm an ambivert. I'm in between, like introvert and extrovert. But when it comes to standing out, I go for gold, right? So I find what works for me, and that's like a big thing that I'll tell anyone watching is find what works for you. So I can tell you something, Scott, Anthony, Ramya, we probably have all different ways to do a certain thing, to stand out, to get our visibility, to get our name out there. But I would say find what works for you. For me, I found that I enjoy writing and I enjoy talking. And so anytime like there's like a speaking thing at whether it's at Microsoft or outside, I'll put my hand for it if it makes sense for me and if it's something that I can speak and share on. So that's one way that I, get visible. But if you're a person who's very timid, I would say start with finding like mentors and then sponsors. They're different. Mentors are people who you can go to and like seek advice. Like they know a little bit more about where you're trying, like the space that you're trying to get into. So you can seek advice from them. But sponsors are people who will say, oh my gosh, like, yes, we need Ramya to do this, like she will be perfect. So people who know more of the skills that you have to offer so that behind closed doors, they can put your name out there for you, right? And so the reason I say that is if you're the person who's a little bit timid to just go for gold and, say, okay, bam, I'm going to create a video today. If you're a little bit shy to do that, maybe you need somebody who's a mentor or somebody who's like an accountability person, or even somebody who will encourage you to be like, hey, I see you're struggling to find a job. Maybe try making a video resume. And then they'll help you warm up for that. So I would say if you're a little bit timid, talk to yourself in the mirror a little bit, power pose a little bit, just get comfortable with something that you're uncomfortable with, and then just do it, right? And I know it's that hard part is the just doing it part, but I would really say a lot of things, especially when it comes to getting visibility, that is super uncomfortable. And so you're gonna need to marinate in that place of discomfort in order to stand out. A lot of people with high visibility didn't just go from 0 to 100 real quick. They had to, go a step at a time, but in some portions they had to marinate in that discomfort. And I will tell you now, like, success is not linear. Okay, you will go in circles and circles, but it is worth it, right? And I can promise you, everybody, myself, Anthony, Ramya, Scott, like we've done or been in positions that made us uncomfortable, not ethically, unethically uncomfortable, but things that like we're afraid of or shy of, but then we just dive into it because we know it'll help us. But for me, I say, if it's going to help you, it might help somebody coming after you. And you definitely want to do something so that you can lift as you climb and bring people along with you. And so if it is, for example, a video resume, what I mean by that is instead of uploading like a resume with all of your skills and stuff, pick a couple of those skills. Maybe you're a badass coder, or maybe you're a great public speaker, and just talk a little bit about that, but keep it under 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. Keep it short, keep it brief, but hit on those key points, and that will help you stand out. That's just one piece, right? There's many other ways to stand out. If you're not good at being public speaking, maybe try uploading a video or something, but that's just a little tip.
All right, thank you for that, Akosua. So Scott, you mentioned you learned to code some languages that are now dead. If someone is looking to learn some skills today or learn some relevant languages or relevant hard skills, what advice would you give them?
I happen to work on .NET, so certainly I am biased towards C#. I like C# because I think C# is a language that works everywhere. If you learn C#, you can write things for microcontrollers and tiny devices and Android and iPhone. You can write things that do machine learning. You can write cloud applications. C# is a language that will work everywhere. I think if you learn C#, Python, and JavaScript, those are the big languages. But I would gently push back, though, on one comment that's been made, is the juxtaposition between hard skills and soft skills. I'm not a big fan of those adjectives because sometimes being soft is hard and sometimes hard is soft. So I think that communication is very much an under-respected aspect of being a developer, and successful developers are those who can communicate clearly and communicate their technical requirements clearly. No longer is being a developer hiding out in a closet and they slide a pizza under the door and then you do some work. Being able to be an effective team member is a really big part of that. So I think that those soft skills really now are just as important as the technical ones, if not more so.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And Ramya, what skills in general have been most valuable to you in your career? And I'm going to double up and ask you a separate question. When you are interviewing candidates, someone from the chat asked specifically, what should they do to get better at interviewing?
Thanks, Anthony. So I'll start off with the skills, and I'll add on to what Scott just said about the importance of soft skills, or really, I would say they are life skills. You know, these are you as a person, as a whole individual, not just a developer who's coding. And first 9 years of my career, which is majority of my career, has been being a developer. I would absolutely agree that what makes you one of the top is your ability to communicate clearly and the ability to work effectively with others. So this is not a one man or a one woman show. This is everything that we do is a team effort. How you're able to collaborate and bring people together without seeing boundaries, I think is one of the most important both lessons for me, as well as something which I have learned over time is most valuable to me, both as an individual and as a leader of a larger organization. Independently on how to get better at interviewing. And I'll talk about tech interviews because I'm a tech hiring manager, so I can speak about that. What I care about when I'm going through a technical interview is your ability to think about the problem and you being able to communicate your thought process. I couldn't care less if you solved the problem or if you came to the solution for the algorithm, right? What I care about is, even if you tried a few things, are you able to communicate clearly the thought process you're going through? The systems thinking also comes out really easily because it doesn't matter if you came to a solution, but what kind of thinking process did you use to arrive at a solution, I think is absolutely critical. So don't be shy. Don't worry while you're into, and I know it's easier said than done. Do not worry when you're trying to solve the problem about, oh, wow, am I arriving to a solution? Is it going in the right direction? Think more about, are you as clearly articulating the problem as it is in your head, because the other person has a few limited minutes to assess, and are you able to communicate that thought process is what is critical. So I'll leave you with that.
Absolutely, thank you for that. So we only have 6 minutes left, so for the next few questions I would ask for some very quick hits so we can answer as many questions as possible. So Akosua, for someone who is enrolled, just started their career, new hire, fresh out of college, what should they do to stand out amongst their peers and be able to make moves like you and transfer into some of these glamorous roles?
I would say for that one, don't look at networking as transactional. I've always looked at it as relationship building. So a lot of people are like, oh, what can I get from this person? Oh, I can't get anything. Okay, bye. But for me, what I've really enjoyed is building those relationships. And where I've seen it pay off, which I didn't even know, is where, people, like I said earlier, people are always watching. So when they see a role that's like great for you, or something in the company, maybe it's like Ignite like this, they're like, ooh, Akosua, right? And so they'll always like tap you for stuff if you actually make the effort to build authentic relationships. So I think authentic relationships has worked for me, one. And then not being afraid to put yourself out there. So personally, you know, Satya said something about using Microsoft as a platform to pursue your passions. I do my day job like that, but I like creating content on places like LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, so there's a lot of Microsoft people, a lot of employees, leaders on there, and so they'll see like my content, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, Akoso, I love that," and then we'll get to pinging and talking on Teams, right? Or if I see somebody else's, I'll be like, "Oh, your article rocked. Let's talk more about it," and then you know, we go on and we create content together and do a LinkedIn live, right? And so for me, a lot of people that I've met here aren't gatekeepy. They don't gatekeep me from things. They really love fostering and building relationships, and I'm super open. And so I just show up as myself, and then I go into it forward thinking, and that's helped me stand up. I haven't had to sacrifice who I am to be here and to grow. So that's the other thing. So definitely look at networking as relationship building, one, and not being afraid to be your best self and just show up as who you really are.
Thank you for that.
I pass it back to you.
Scott, working remotely has become a thing during COVID. So what about if you are a disabled person? Do you have insights into how they can, from their home, make their workplace more accessible? And separate question, how does someone manage social anxiety in a workplace? How can they become a natural interactor over Teams calls like this?
That is a lot to fit into a quick hit.
Yes.
And my personal disabilities aren't visible and are different. I have some inability to use my right arm, but I am mostly ambulatory. I do use a lot of voice to text, a lot. I write most of my emails with voice, and I have found that to be very much a thing that is useful. You notice also that I'm wearing a lavalier mic right now because I need to move around or I'll get stiff. So by having a lav, it means that I can still have good sound quality while I have a conversation with you, and that's been super helpful because I can wander around my office. I've also put an inexpensive TV up on the wall here, and I take my iPhone and I put it on top of the TV, and I can have fancy Satya-like Teams calls just by sharing the screen to the TV, and I'm in the Teams app and I can have a conversation. So there's little inexpensive things that you can do to make your space more your space. So I think the real question underneath what you're saying is, what can we as remote workers do to build our nests? And the way that you build a nest is you do it intentionally. You think about your space. If you're just sitting on your couch with your laptop, that's fine. Does it feed your spirit? Is it working for you? Have you sat there and stopped and said, this hurts, I don't feel good every day. Maybe I could turn this way, or maybe I can have the light this way, or maybe I can open up this window. What can we do to build our nests? That's the thing that I would tell people when they're working remotely, because remote work and quarantine work are different things. And this is not remote work right now. This is still not fun.
Absolutely. And Ramya, switching gears again, can you tell us how you discovered your passion in technology and what is driving your passion today?
Sure, Anthony. Try to be quick. I talked a little bit about the resulting impact. For me, what I leave behind as my legacy, to my, whether it's my team, whether it is my company, and really whether it is my friends and family after me, I think that is what drives me. The impact that I have with the people that I interact with. My work, our customers that we deal with, are the reaction to what we build for them and how we are enabling them is what powers me. So really, it comes down to the impact that I'm having and the legacy that I leave behind me. That is what motivates me.
Absolutely. So we, fortunately, are at time. And I think that was a perfect note to end on. We had 30 minutes. Hopefully we were able to give you some insights and resources that will help you in your transition and flourishing in technology. If you would like to learn some skills, whether it be accessibility or how to code in C#, we have Microsoft.com/learn available to you, and we hope to see you at the rest of Ignite at the future sessions. Thank you.